Armin lived two lives. In the office, he was a calm and powerful CEO. At home, he was just a father trying to raise his little daughter Hannah alone. His wife had passed away 3 years ago, leaving a space in his heart that no one could fill. He had no time for romance. He believed love was a luxury, something that belonged to others, not him. One evening, his old friend Imran called. "Armin, I need a big favor. Can you go to a dinner for me? I promised I'd meet someone, but I can't make it." Armin frowned. "A dinner? Is this a business deal?" Imran hesitated. "Not exactly. It's kind of a blind date." Armin groaned. "You know I don't do these things. I have no interest." "Please," Imran begged. "Just sit there for an hour. Be polite, talk, and leave. You don't even have to pretend to like her." Armin finally agreed, though he felt foolish dressing up for something like this. He wore a simple gray suit, planning to stay only 30 minutes. Across town, Aisha hurried from her small bakery job. She was filling in for her cousin, who had begged her to meet someone on his behalf. "I can't show up." "You go for me, please," he had said. Aisha didn't even know what to expect. She wore a plain blue dress, still dusted with flour at the hem, and tied her hair back in a quick knot. When Armin entered the quiet restaurant, he expected someone loud or fake. Instead, he saw her sitting at a corner table, nervously looking around. She didn't notice him at first. She was simple, but there was something peaceful about her. Armin walked over. "Are you here for Imran?" Aisha looked up, surprised. "Yes. And you?" "I'm here for Imran too, I guess," he said, smiling at the mix-up. They both laughed, and just like that, the tension faded. Instead of a formal meeting, it felt like two strangers sharing a table by chance. They ordered food and began to talk. Armin found himself asking questions he usually never asked. "Do you like your work?" "Yes," Aisha said. "I work at a small bakery. It's not easy, but I dream of opening my own shop one day." Her eyes lit up as she spoke about kneading dough at dawn, decorating cakes late at night, and saving every coin she could. She never complained, even when she mentioned how hard it was to pay rent. She spoke with hope, not bitterness. Armin listened closely. He was used to people who only talked about money or status. But this girl was different. She spoke with warmth, and he felt a strange calm around her. She, too, was surprised by him. She expected someone arrogant, but Armin was quiet, respectful, and kind. He didn't talk much about himself. When she asked what he did, he only said, "I manage a company. It keeps me busy." He didn't mention he was a CEO. The dinner went by quickly. They shared stories about childhood, laughed at silly memories, and even argued playfully about which dessert was better, chocolate or vanilla. For the first time in years, Armin forgot about work and about the heavy loneliness he carried. When the bill came, Aisha quickly said, "Let's split it. I don't like anyone paying for me." Armin smiled, a little surprised. Most people tried to impress him or take advantage of him. She didn't. Outside, the night air was cool. Aisha pulled her shawl tighter. "Well, I guess this is goodbye. We weren't supposed to meet again anyway, right?" Armin opened his mouth to say something, but she gave a small wave and walked off into the quiet street. He stood there for a moment, watching her disappear, feeling something he hadn't felt in years, a pull in his chest, an ache he couldn't name. Armin didn't even know her full name. But as he drove home, he kept thinking about her smile, about the light in her eyes when she spoke about her dreams. He told himself it was nothing, just a passing thought. But deep down, he knew it wasn't. The next morning, Armin tried to bury himself in work, as he always did. His office was full of files, charts, and people waiting for his approval. He thought staying busy would erase the strange feeling from last night. But every time he paused, Aisha's face came back to his mind, her shy smile, her honest words, the way she spoke about her dreams without fear. He told himself it was foolish. I don't even know her full name, he muttered under his breath. At lunch, his friend Imran called. So? How was the dinner? It was fine, Arman said quickly, not wanting to admit how much it had affected him. Imran laughed. Fine? That means you liked her. I can hear it in your voice. I didn't say that. Arman leaned back in his chair. But she wasn't what I expected. She's different. Different is good, Imran teased. Maybe you should see her again. How? I don't even have her number. There was silence for a moment, then Imran said carefully, I can ask my friend. But are you sure you want this? You've been closed off for years. Arman didn't answer. He didn't know what he wanted. All he knew was that for the first time in years, someone had caught his attention, not because of wealth, not because of power, but because of her heart. That evening, Arman came home to find little Hannah drawing on the living room floor. She looked up and smiled. Papa, you're late again. I know, sweetheart. I'm sorry. He kissed her forehead and sat beside her. What are you drawing? A cake. Hannah said proudly. For my birthday next month. Arman smiled. It looks delicious. Then, almost without thinking, he asked, how would you like a real cake from a special bakery? Hannah's eyes widened. Really? Can we go? Arman nodded. Maybe, just maybe, he could find Aisha again. The next day, he drove across the city and finally found the small bakery Aisha had mentioned during dinner. It was a quiet shop with peeling paint and a small bell on the door. Inside, the smell of fresh bread filled the air. Aisha stood behind the counter, wearing an apron dusted with flour. She looked surprised when she saw him. You? Me, Arman said, smiling softly. I hope you don't mind. I came for a cake, and maybe for some advice. Aisha blinked. Advice? For my daughter. Her birthday is coming, and I want something special. Aisha relaxed and nodded. Of course. How old is she? 5. Aisha's face lit up. That's a wonderful age. Let me show you some designs. She brought out a small sketchbook, flipping through drawings of colorful cakes, ones shaped like flowers, animals, even castles. Arman watched her as she explained each design. Her hands moved with excitement, her eyes sparkled as she talked about frosting and flavors. She was clearly proud of her work. I'll take this one, Arman said, pointing to a cake shaped like a garden. She loves flowers. It's my favorite too, Aisha said softly. I'll make it perfect for her. When he paid, she hesitated. This is too much, she said, seeing the amount. Consider it in advance, Arman replied gently. I want you to have everything you need to make it special. Aisha shook her head. I can't take extra money. I'll only charge what's fair. Arman looked at her carefully. Most people would have accepted without question. But Aisha had pride, and that only made him respect her more. All right, he said finally, handing her the exact price she requested. But at least let me thank you properly. Can I take you to dinner again? Aisha hesitated. I don't know. I'm very busy. And I don't usually go out with customers. I'm not just a customer, Arman said quietly. I enjoyed talking to you. That's all. There was a pause. Then Aisha gave a small smile. Maybe after I finish your cake. That evening, as Arman drove home, he felt something he hadn't felt in years: excitement. Not for a business deal, not for an achievement, but for a simple promise to meet again. Little Hannah greeted him at the door. "Papa, did you get my cake?" "Not yet," Armin said, lifting her into his arms. "But someone very kind is making it for you." "Someone kind?" Hannah asked curiously. "Who is she?" Armin smiled. "A friend. I hope." But deep inside, he already knew she was more than that. Something had started to grow in his heart, something warm and frightening at the same time. The next few days, Armin couldn't stop thinking about Aisha. Even in his busy office, her face would appear in his mind, her shy smile, her eyes lighting up when she spoke about her bakery dreams. It was strange, unfamiliar, but comforting. He kept himself busy with work, yet every time he passed a bakery or smelled fresh bread on the street, his thoughts wandered to her. He wondered what she was doing, whether she was happy, and if she thought of him at all. One afternoon, Armin returned to the bakery. He wanted to check on Hannah's birthday cake, and maybe, secretly, he wanted to see Aisha again. As he entered, he noticed she was struggling to carry a large sack of flour. Without thinking, he rushed forward. "Here, let me help," he said, taking part of the sack. Aisha looked startled but smiled. "Thank you. This sack is heavier than it looks." They walked to the storage together. Armin noticed her hands were small but strong, and her apron was smudged with flour. There was something honest about her, simple and hard-working, that drew him in. "I admire you," he said softly. "Running a bakery isn't easy." Aisha shrugged. "It's hard, yes. But I like what I do. It's honest work. And I love seeing people happy with my cakes." Her words struck him. He had spent years in a world of business deals and profits, but here was someone creating joy with her own hands. And somehow, that joy felt contagious. As she began preparing the cake, Armin watched quietly. Aisha carefully measured ingredients, mixed them, and shaped the dough with precision. She hummed a soft tune, unaware of how focused and impressed he was. After a while, she noticed him. "Are you going to watch all day, or do you want to learn?" she teased, offering him a small spoon. Armin laughed. "I think I'll stick to watching. I don't want to ruin your cake." But when she handed him a tiny bit of batter to taste, he couldn't resist. He smiled as the rich flavor melted on his tongue. "This is amazing," he said. Aisha blushed lightly. "Thank you. I only hope Hannah will like it." Days passed, and the cake was finally ready. Armin arranged for Hannah to pick it up after school. He wanted the day to feel special, not just for his daughter but also for him. When Hannah saw the cake, her eyes sparkled. "It's beautiful," she exclaimed, hugging him tightly. "Someone very special made it for you," Armin said, smiling. Hannah looked at him curiously. "Who?" Armin hesitated. "A kind lady who loves baking. You'll meet her one day." Hannah nodded, satisfied, and ran off to show her friends. Watching his daughter's joy, Armin felt a warmth he hadn't felt in years. And that warmth had a name: Aisha. Later that evening, Armin returned to the bakery, hoping to thank Aisha personally. The shop was quiet, and the soft glow of the lights made it feel welcoming. "Thank you again," he said, handing her a small envelope. "This is for you, for all the hard work." Aisha shook her head. "Armin, I told you I can't accept extra money." "Consider it a gift, then," he said gently. "For making my daughter's birthday special." She looked at him, her eyes softening. "You're very thoughtful." "I'm trying," he said, with a rare, shy smile. "And I'd like to see you again, if you're willing." Aisha paused, then nodded. "I'd like that too." But only after work hours. I have a lot to do during the day. Armin's heart lifted. Even a small promise felt like a miracle. As he drove home, he realized something important. He wasn't just interested in her kindness or her baking skills. He was drawn to her heart, to the way she faced life with courage and hope. In her, he saw something he hadn't seen in years: a world where love and life could coexist, even for someone like him. That night, he tucked Hannah into bed and watched her sleep. She murmured in her sleep, "I hope I can meet the lady who made my cake." Armin kissed her forehead. "Soon, sweetheart. Very soon." He stood by the window, staring at the city lights, and allowed himself to hope. Hope that he could open his heart again, hope that maybe, love could find him when he least expected it. And somewhere deep inside, he knew that meeting Aisha had changed everything. The next day, he planned to visit her again. This time, not for business or convenience, but because he wanted to know more about her, to see her smile, and perhaps, to let her into his life. For the first time in years, Armin felt his heart restless, but in a way that made him feel alive, not lonely. And he knew, without a doubt, that he was willing to take a chance. The next weekend, Armin decided to visit the bakery again. He didn't have a reason, really. He just wanted to see Aisha. The city streets were quiet in the early morning, and the smell of fresh bread filled the air as he approached the small shop. Aisha was already inside, arranging pastries for the day. When she saw him, her eyes widened slightly. "You're back," she said, half amused, half surprised. "Yes," Armin said with a small smile. "I thought I'd stop by, to see how things are going." She shrugged, trying to hide her nervousness. "Busy as always. Baking never stops." "I can see that," he said, glancing at the neatly lined up pastries. "And I can also see how good you are at it." Aisha's cheeks turned pink. "Thank you. It's just, I like what I do." Armin nodded. He watched her work, her hands moving gracefully as she filled cupcakes with cream and carefully placed fruit toppings. The simplicity of her actions felt magical to him. He had spent his life managing large teams and complicated deals, but here, in this small bakery, he felt something entirely different: peace, warmth, and a surprising admiration. After a few minutes of quiet watching, Armin asked, "Would you like some help today?" Aisha laughed softly. "You? With baking? I don't think you're ready for this kind of challenge." "I'm willing to learn," he said, smiling. "Even if it's just for a few minutes." To his surprise, she handed him a rolling pin. "All right, but don't break anything." Armin tried to mimic her movements, rolling out dough carefully. It was harder than it looked, and he grunted softly when it didn't come out perfectly. "You're trying too hard," Aisha said, gently correcting his hands. "Baking is about patience, not force." He smiled at her instructions, but more than that, he felt a strange connection forming between them. Every time she spoke, he listened carefully, not just to her words, but to the small laughter and subtle kindness that came with them. By midday, they had prepared a dozen small cakes and pastries. Aisha wiped her hands on her apron and smiled at him. "You did better than I expected," she said. "Thanks," Armin said honestly. "I never thought I'd enjoy this so much." "It's relaxing." Aisha nodded. "Sometimes, the simplest things can make us the happiest." Her words stayed with him long after he left the bakery. Driving home, he thought about how little he knew about real happiness, beyond money and work. But with Aisha, it felt like a glimpse of something he had lost or maybe never had. That evening, Hannah ran to him as soon as he arrived home. "Papa, did you see the new cakes? They look amazing." Armin laughed, lifting her into his arms. "Yes, I saw them. And guess what? I helped make some today." Hannah's eyes widened. Really? Did you bake with the lady? Armin hesitated, then nodded. Yes. She's very kind, and she taught me a lot. Hannah hugged him tightly. I like her. She sounds nice. Armin felt warmth in his chest. Seeing his daughter excited about someone he cared for made him feel hope he hadn't felt in years. The following days, Armin found himself visiting the bakery more often. Sometimes for business, sometimes under the excuse of needing cakes for Hannah, but mostly because he wanted to be near Aisha. Each visit brought small moments that stayed with him, the way she laughed softly when flour dusted her nose, how she explained her dreams of expanding the bakery, and how she treated everyone with kindness, even those who were rude or impatient. Armin realized he was learning from her too, not just about baking, but about life. Patience, humility, and joy could exist even in small, ordinary moments. One afternoon, as they cleaned the bakery together, Aisha paused and looked at him. Why do you keep coming back? She asked gently. Armin felt a little nervous. I don't know, he admitted. I just like being here. With you. It's different from everything else in my life. Her eyes softened, and for the first time, she looked vulnerable. I'm not used to people like you noticing me. Most people just see the bakery or my work, not me. Armin stepped closer, his voice quiet but firm. I notice you. Not the bakery, not the cakes, just you. Aisha blinked, unable to speak for a moment. Then, she gave a small smile. That's very kind of you. That evening, as Armin left the bakery, he felt a spark he hadn't felt in years. It was more than admiration or respect, it was the first hint of love. His heart was restless, yet it felt right. For the first time, he dared to hope that maybe, just maybe, someone like Aisha could be part of his life. He drove home thinking of her smile, the warmth in her eyes, and the way she made him feel alive again. Hannah greeted him at the door, full of excitement. Papa! Did you learn more baking tricks? Armin laughed. Yes, and I can't wait to show you. As he held his daughter close, he realized that life was changing. Slowly, gently, it was opening new doors, doors he had thought were closed forever. And at the center of it all, was a simple, kind girl who had no idea how much she had already touched his heart. The days passed quickly, and Armin found himself looking forward to each visit to the bakery. He was no longer just a father bringing home cakes for Hannah. He was a man drawn to someone who had touched his heart in ways he hadn't expected. Aisha noticed the change too. There was something gentle about him now, a softness that didn't belong to the busy CEO she had briefly met at dinner. His smiles had grown warmer, and his eyes lingered on her longer than necessary. One morning, while the sun streamed through the bakery window, Armin arrived early to help Aisha with the morning preparations. She was arranging pastries on the shelves, and he stood quietly, watching her work. You're quiet today, Aisha said, glancing at him with a small smile. I'm just thinking, Armin replied. About work? She asked, teasing. Not work, he said, shaking his head. About life. About how much I enjoy being here. Aisha stopped what she was doing and looked at him. There was sincerity in his voice, and something in her chest shifted. She had seen many people come and go, but none had ever admitted something so simple and honest. Life can be complicated, she said softly. But moments like this, they make it worthwhile. Armin nodded. Exactly. That afternoon, he returned home with Hannah, who was bursting with excitement. Papa, I have an idea. Can we have a picnic tomorrow? With the cake from Aisha. Armin smiled. A picnic sounds perfect. He saw her enthusiasm and felt a deep warmth inside. Hannah's happiness was always his priority, and if spending time with Aisha could bring more joy into her life, he was more than willing to take that step. The next day, they went to a nearby park. Hannah ran ahead, laughing and pointing at flowers and birds, while Armin and Aisha followed. She carried a basket filled with sandwiches, fruits, and the beautifully decorated cake she had made. As they found a spot under a large tree, Aisha set everything down carefully. Armin watched her, noticing the way the sunlight caught in her hair, the gentle way she spoke to Hannah, and the kindness that radiated from her every gesture. "You're really good with children," Aisha said, smiling at him. "Hannah seems happy with you." Armin shrugged, feeling a little shy. "I try my best. She's my whole world." Aisha looked at him thoughtfully. "I can see that. And it's beautiful, the way you care for her." For a moment, silence passed between them, but it was comfortable. Armin realized that he could talk to her about anything, and she would listen, not judge, not pretend, just listen. Hannah dug into her cake with excitement. "It's perfect," she exclaimed. "Aisha, you made the best cake ever." Aisha laughed, ruffling Hannah's hair gently. "I'm glad you like it, sweetheart." Armin watched the two of them, a feeling of gratitude swelling inside him. He thought about how his life had been lonely after his wife's passing, and yet, somehow, this simple bakery girl had started to fill that emptiness, not completely, but enough to bring hope. As the sun began to set, Armin helped pack up the picnic. "Thank you for today," he said softly to Aisha. "It was wonderful." She smiled, a gentle warmth in her eyes. "I enjoyed it too. Hannah is very sweet, and you're different from what I expected. You care." Armin felt his heart tighten. Her words were simple, yet they carried more meaning than any compliment he had ever received in his life. "I hope we can do this again," he said quietly. "I'd like that," Aisha replied, a hint of shyness in her voice. That evening, back at home, Armin tucked Hannah into bed. She hugged him tightly. "Papa, can we visit Aisha again soon?" "Of course, sweetheart," he said, kissing her forehead. "We'll go again soon." As he stood by the window, watching the city lights, he thought about the unusual journey he had been on. From a reluctant dinner with a stranger to quiet afternoons in her bakery, he had begun to understand that life had unexpected ways of giving second chances. He realized he was falling in love not with wealth, not with appearances, but with a kind, brave, and hard-working girl who had touched his heart through simple acts of honesty and care. And for the first time in years, Armin allowed himself to believe that love could exist again in his life. The next morning, he called Aisha. "Would you like to have dinner with me tomorrow evening? Just the two of us." There was a pause, then she answered softly, I would like that." Armin smiled, feeling a joy that had been absent from his life for years. He knew the road ahead might not be easy. He was a single father, she was focused on her dreams, but he was willing to try. For the first time, he truly felt that life could be beautiful again. And he knew that it all started with one unexpected meeting, one kind girl, and one shared cake that had brought their worlds together. The evening arrived, and Armin found himself feeling nervous, a feeling he hadn't experienced in years. He wore a simple suit, nothing flashy, and checked his reflection in the mirror one last time. Hannah had gone to her grandmother's house for the night, leaving him free to spend the evening with Aisha. He arrived at the bakery first. The small shop glowed warmly in the evening light. Aisha stepped outside, wearing a soft green dress and a shy smile. "You look nice," Armin said quietly, feeling his heart beat faster. Aisha blushed. "Thank you. You look comfortable." They walked to a nearby small restaurant, simple but cozy. As they sat down, Armin felt the tension between them ease. It wasn't forced. It wasn't awkward. It was as if the world had shrunk to just the two of them. During dinner, they talked about simple things: childhood memories, favorite foods, dreams for the future. Armin listened as Aisha spoke about her plans for the bakery, and she listened as he shared stories of Hannah and the challenges of raising her alone. "You must be proud," Aisha said softly. "You've done so much for her." Armin looked down, thinking. "I try. But it's not always easy. Some days, I feel like I'm failing." "You're not failing," she said gently. "You love her, and that's what matters. That's more than enough." Her words struck him deeply. She didn't see him as a successful CEO or a wealthy man. She saw him as a father, as a human being, as someone capable of love. After dinner, they walked through the quiet streets, the cool evening breeze brushing against them. Armin felt a mixture of hope and fear. He knew he cared for her, but he didn't know if she felt the same way. Finally, he stopped near a small fountain, the water glistening under the streetlights. "Aisha," he said softly, "I have to tell you something." She looked up at him, her eyes wide. "What is it?" I think I'm falling in love with you," he admitted, his voice steady but gentle. "I've never felt this way before. And I know my life is complicated, with Hannah, with work, but I can't help how I feel." Aisha's hands trembled slightly, and she looked down, gathering her thoughts. "Armin. I didn't expect this," she said finally. "I like you too. More than I thought I would. But I'm scared. I have dreams, responsibilities. I don't want to get in the way of your life." He stepped closer, taking her hand in his. "You wouldn't be in the way. You'd be making my life complete. Hannah would love you too. I know it won't be easy, but I'm willing to try if you are." Tears filled her eyes, but her smile was bright. I I want to try," she whispered. That night, they walked together, sharing stories, dreams, and laughter. It felt natural, like a puzzle finally fitting into place. Armin realized that for the first time in years, he didn't have to hide behind work or responsibilities. He could simply be himself. Aisha, too, felt a warmth she hadn't expected. This man so strong, so caring, so devoted was opening his heart to her. And she wanted to step into that world, even if it meant facing uncertainty. The next morning, Armin visited the bakery again, not for business, not for Hannah, but for her. Aisha looked up from kneading dough, surprised. "You're early," she said, a teasing smile on her face. "I couldn't wait," he said softly. "I just wanted to see you." Aisha blushed. "You're impossible." He smiled, gently taking her hand. "And you are the best thing that's happened to me in a long time." For a moment, they stood there, hands touching, hearts connected. Words weren't necessary. Everything was understood: hope, love, trust, and the promise of something beautiful. That evening, Armin returned home, a new sense of joy filling his heart. Hannah ran to him, excited to hear about the bakery. "Papa, did you see Aisha today?" "Yes, sweetheart," he said, smiling. "And she smiled at me too." Hannah giggled. "I knew she was nice. I like her." Armin laughed, lifting her into his arms. "Me too, Hannah. Me too." As he tucked her into bed, he realized that life had begun to shift. From loneliness and routine, he was stepping into warmth, love, and hope. Aisha had brought a light into his life he hadn't expected, and he knew he wanted to nurture it, protect it, and cherish it forever. That night, as he looked out at the city lights, Armin felt something he hadn't in a long time: peace. He knew challenges would come, but for the first time, he didn't feel alone. Love had found a way back into his life, quietly, gently, and beautifully. And he was ready to embrace it fully. The morning sun filtered through the curtains, casting a soft golden glow across Armin's living room. Hannah was already awake, bouncing on the sofa with excitement. "Papa! Today we're going to the bakery, right?" Armin smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest. "Yes, sweetheart. And today, we're going to surprise someone very special." Hannah clapped her hands in delight. "I can't wait." When they arrived at the bakery, Aisha was arranging fresh pastries at the counter. Her eyes widened when she saw them. "Hannah! Armin! What a surprise!" Hannah ran forward, hugging her tightly. "Look, Aisha. I brought you a gift." She held out a small box, carefully wrapped. Aisha laughed, touched. "You didn't have to." "It's for you because you're so kind," Hannah said. "And because Papa really likes you." Armin's cheeks warmed. He watched the two of them, feeling a surge of happiness he hadn't felt in years. Hannah's joy, Aisha's smile, it was all he had ever wanted: a family, a sense of belonging, and a chance to love again. After the small celebration, they sat down together, sipping tea and sharing stories. Armin noticed the way Aisha's eyes sparkled when she laughed, the way Hannah's hands waved excitedly as she recounted her day. It was a simple moment, but it felt perfect, peaceful, warm, and filled with hope. Armin realized how far he had come. Not long ago, he had thought love was impossible for him. He had spent years focused on work, protecting his heart, and raising Hannah alone. And now, here he was, discovering that love could find him in the most unexpected way with a kind-hearted girl who had no idea how deeply she had touched his life. Over the next few weeks, Armin and Aisha spent more time together. Sometimes it was at the bakery, helping with cakes and pastries. Sometimes it was at the park with Hannah, watching her laugh and play. And sometimes, it was just the two of them, walking quietly through the city streets, holding hands and sharing dreams. Armin learned more about Aisha each day: her dedication to her bakery, her courage to face challenges, and her simple, honest way of looking at life. He admired her strength, but more than that, he admired her heart. Aisha, too, discovered the depth of Armin's love, not just for her, but for Hannah. She saw the devotion in his eyes, the care in his words, and the gentle patience in his actions. Slowly, she realized she was falling for him not for his success, but for the man he truly was. One afternoon, Armin took Aisha and Hannah to the park. Hannah ran ahead, chasing butterflies, while Armin and Aisha walked slowly behind her. The sunlight danced on the leaves, and the air was filled with the scent of flowers. "I've been thinking," Armin said, breaking the comfortable silence. "Life is short, and we never know what's coming. I don't want to waste any more time hiding my feelings." Aisha looked at him, heart beating faster. "What are you trying to say?" He stopped, taking both her hands in his. "I love you, Aisha. I want you to be part of my life, part of our little family. I can't promise it will always be easy, but I can promise I will always care for you, and for Hannah." Aisha felt tears in her eyes. She had never imagined feeling this kind of love, pure, strong, and real. "Armin, I love you too. I want that too." Hannah ran back to them, noticing their hands held together. "Are you two friends?" she asked, giggling. Armin and Aisha laughed. "We're more than friends," Armin said gently. "We're family." Hannah's eyes sparkled. "Yay. I like that." That evening, they returned home, and Armin tucked Hannah into bed. She hugged him tightly. "Papa, I love you. And I love Aisha too." "I love you too, sweetheart," Armin whispered. "And Aisha loves you too. We're all going to be happy together." As Hannah drifted off to sleep, Armin sat by the window, looking out at the city lights. He thought about the journey that had brought him here, from grief and loneliness to hope and love. He remembered the night of the blind date he had reluctantly attended, and he smiled. That one unexpected evening had changed everything. Days turned into weeks, and Armin, Aisha, and Hannah began building a life together. They laughed, shared dreams, and faced challenges as a team. The bakery thrived, Hannah blossomed in her happiness, and Armin discovered that love was not a weakness, but a strength that could bring joy and courage. Armin often thought about how strange life could be, how a single dinner for a friend had introduced him to the girl who would heal his heart, bring laughter to his home, and teach him that even in the busiest, most complicated life, love could find a way. One evening, as they sat together in the living room, Armin looked at Aisha and Hannah. He felt complete. "I never thought I could feel this happy again," he said softly. Aisha smiled, leaning on his shoulder. "Love finds you when you least expect it," she said. Hannah yawned, snuggling between them. "I love you both," she whispered. Armin held them close, feeling the warmth of a family he had never dared to hope for. And in that moment, he knew that life, with all its surprises, struggles, and joys, had given him the greatest gift: a second chance at love, happiness, and a true family. And this was only the beginning.